Hi, my name's Paul Grogan and welcome to the next episode of the Gaming Rules Podblast series. This is episode 9 and I'm going to be talking with Daniel Newman about the games he's designed and specifically Deadman's Cabal, which is on Kickstarter right now at the time of recording. So welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thank you, Paul. Glad to be here.
Now, you are all the way over in America. Whereabouts?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
And the Park Slope neighborhood, if anybody cares.
Okay. So I went to Manhattan once on holiday.
Yep.
I think it was 99. There's a Brooklyn Bridge.
Yep.
So am I right in thinking that I walked across that bridge, I was then in Brooklyn? You
were in Brooklyn. You would have to walk a bit farther to where I live.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Brooklyn to Manhattan.
That's where it is. So to get into Manhattan itself is a walking distance for you.
It would be a bit of a walk. Yeah. I mean, it's about, like a 20-minute subway ride to get to Manhattan usually. Okay.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about you, games. How long have you been into board games?
So I had a friend introduce me to Settlers of Catan in, I think, 2003.
Okay.
And I got hooked. I mean, I was playing, regular family games and stuff my whole life. I have memories of my parents playing Trivial Pursuit when I was 4 years old and wanting to stay up past my bedtime to try to answer those questions.
Right.
We have Monopoly and Clue and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting into hobby games was 2003 with Settlers, and then I started a Craigslist board game meetup. I had just moved to New York like the year before, so I didn't really know anybody. So it was a way to try to meet some people and get into playing more games. And I wound up meeting this guy who just had a bunch of these crazy German games, and he would just bring games over to my house, and we'd play them. And that's how I found out about so many more. And then there was Puerto Rico and Power Grid and Princess of Florence were like some early ones that I really got into. And
it snowballed from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Craigslist group actually lasted about a year. We were meeting every couple weeks at my house, and I had up to like 10 people coming over. We'd have multiple games going at once. And then because it's New York, people just kind of disappeared. Like people just move away after a while.
Oh, move away. I thought you meant disappeared as in like, something bad happened to them.
No. They just, people live in New York for a while and then they go somewhere else. Like,
right.
And it just kind of all of a sudden stopped. Like everybody moved away at once.
Okay.
But one of the guy who actually was the one who brought the games over, I'm still in touch with, and we'll have housewarming parties, whatever, and he always comes with his family, and we talk about meeting up for games. But he's got 3 small children, so it rarely ever happens. But
okay, so that was 2003.
It was 2003, yeah. And then I fell off of games a bit once I had a kid because it's really hard to manage, and then got back into it a few years ago. And then especially once I started designing about 4 years ago, I kind of jumped into the convention scene, and it's been kind of solid since then. Yeah.
So what kind of games do you enjoy playing yourself? Not counting the ones that you've designed, which I don't know whether you enjoy playing them or not, but putting them to one side, what's your sweet spot for games?
So anything by Vital Lacerda at this point. I love What's Your Game as a publisher. Just about everything they've put out is right in my wheelhouse. There's that kind of Italian collective with like Simone Luciani and Daniele Tassini, like all those. I love their games, and I love that they kind of pair off and make something cool, and then they'll switch it up and pair off with someone else. And I'll always check out anything by those guys. But I like kind of meaty Euros that are fairly easy to kind of understand how they work, but it takes a lot longer to understand how to play well.
Right.
Like that's kind of my jam.
Yeah. So we met, I think it was Origins 2016.
Yeah, that sounds
right.
right.
It was at Gil Hover's booth.
Yes.
And you came up to me and introduced yourself, and I thought, this is somebody I've got to get to know.
Oh.
Because I'm 5'8" and I'm quite short, and you're smaller than me.
Yes, sir.
So I thought, brilliant. Finally, I'm going to get to know somebody who isn't like, taller than me. And that's the only reason, really.
I'm sure that's true. I mean, that's the good thing for me is everybody's taller than me.
So for those people who are listening who thinks, this Paul Grogan guy, he's insulting his guests. This is not on. Me and Daniel have sort of become friends over the years, and we have a bit of banter going. So don't worry about it. It's all fine.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So anyway, let's move on to you as a designer.
Sure.
So you said that you dropped out of the gaming scene a little bit, obviously, when your family situation changed and you had a kid.
Yeah.
But then you got back into it. And what made you think, I'll start designing games?
So what's funny is it's still related to the kid. So when you have a small child, you and your wife don't always spend a lot of quality time together because you're mostly managing that small child. So we got into a point where all we were doing was, watching TV or something in the evenings after the kid goes down, and it was just it became a bit of a rut, and I felt like we should do something else together. So I remembered that we used to play games a lot together, and we were starting to play games again. And I was like, well, what do you think about trying to design something? I think I was listening to some board game podcasts and maybe a couple on game design. I started thinking that could be a cool thing to do. So my first game design was actually a co-design with my wife.
Right.
At least at the beginning. But then what happened with most things that I get into is I start going deeper and get slightly obsessed about it. And at some point, I took off running, and her interest was not as strong as mine. So she was just like, you know what, do your thing. We can still kind of test things together and talk about things together. But it seems like you're way more into this, and I don't really have the time to do it.
Okay.
So I actually wound up finding this... there was a game night I was going to, and I started bringing my prototype to that. And somebody was like, there's a meetup for game designers that happens here on the weekends. I was like, oh, and this was like 3 blocks from my house.
Right, okay.
And it was fantastic. So that I went and I met Gil Hova at this playtest group, as well as Emerson Matsuchi and a couple of other folks. And I had no idea who they were because I was just getting back into things. And
to be fair, Gil, at the time, compared to where he is now...
Oh, yeah. The networks had not yet come out.
Exactly.
I think he was just starting to test the expansions stuff for the networks.
Yeah.
Or the Kickstarter stuff, the bonus stuff.
Yeah.
He had not yet put networks on Kickstarter. And he was still working on Bad Medicine, I think, or that had just come out. So, Gil was actually, he was kind of a mentor for me early on. I learned a lot from him about game design and how to approach things, and that was pretty great. And we're pretty good friends now, so that was cool.
So this first game that you started to co-design with your wife,
yes,
did that get published?
No.
Right.
I did wind up pitching it to a bunch of folks.
Yeah.
I showed it around. There was one publisher that held on to it for like 6 months before he finally gave me a no.
Okay.
But I wound up getting the attention of a few different publishers.
Yeah.
One of whom is actually putting one of my games out this spring, which is cool.
Right.
But yeah, no, those early games, I think where it wound up was it was a pretty decent game if it had come out 10 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And because those were the games that I was playing at the time.
So they inspire you. I'm
Exactly.
the same. All of the game ideas I have, when I sit down and I do it, I think all I'm doing is I'm just rehashing this.
Right.
Because that's a game I like. And it's,
Right.
You've got to do something different.
Yeah.
But the fact that the first game that you actually sat down to design
Yep.
was suitable for pitching to publishers and some of them were interested in it, that's more than most people. Most people say, the first 20 ideas, scrap them, throw them away.
No, well, I really throw myself into things and I don't know, I have a good sense of what works and what doesn't. And, I went to art school and the whole iterative process and taking criticism and all that, comes very naturally to me at this point. So I feel like I have a bit of a leg up when it comes to the process of that.
Cool. So you went through this process with a few games, presumably, and then what was the first one that you had published?
So one of my earliest designs was kind of this, not sprawling, but it was kind of a big Euro with these, just resource collection, or, resource management, cube processing kind of games. And it wasn't exciting. It worked. It didn't do a whole lot that hadn't been done before. And then I came across Button Shy Games, who do these 18-card wallet games. And he was at a point where he wanted to start doing something really new with the format. And he's like, what I'd love to do is do like an 18-card Euro, like a tight Euro in 18 cards. And I was looking at what I had, because at this point I had 3 or 4 games that I was working on. And I was looking at this resource management one, and I was like, I can take this and boil it down to 18 cards.
Okay.
And I sat there and I figured it out, and I worked on it a bit, and I sent it to him. He's like, this is fantastic. Let's do it. and that was my first published game.
Okay.
So
Which was
that was Ahead in the Clouds.
Yeah.
AHEAD in the Clouds. So I wound up figuring that out and publishing it with him, and then I had an idea for a follow-up called Feet on the Ground, FEAT, because puns, and he was like, okay, this is a weird one. We'll do it as a Patreon bonus kind of thing.
Right.
Do a small print run. We're not going to do the Kickstarter for it because it's odd. It's a weird little game. But then he put that out too. So those were my first 2 published games.
Okay.
And then I have a couple more coming out this year, and another one signed for next year, and the snowball is rolling, I suppose.
Yeah. So let's talk about Deadman's Cabal, because this has been recorded on the 31st of January.
Yep.
And Deadman's Cabal is on Kickstarter right now.
Yep, for the next couple of weeks.
Pandasaurus Games.
Yep.
How did you go on about pitching it to them?
So that was funny. So this was a game that I was working on for a bit, and it just came together really quickly. And I had just played... So Deadman's Cabal is combining 2 of my favorite things, Feldian Euro gameplay and necromancy. And that was a laugh line there. That was a joke. That's fine.
Right. Okay. I'll tag
you can edit in.
I'll edit in the audience laughter later.
Perfect. Okay. So I'd been playing. When I first got into game design, I started playing a ton of games and a lot of Stefan Feld games because all of a sudden his designs just opened up a whole world for me. So Deadman's Cabal was very influenced by a lot of Felds that I played, especially kind of the structure of Trajan with the different areas that you're doing, and they all kind of feed into each other. So I designed this game, and I was working on it. It was coming together really quickly, and I was at Origins, and I had just played, or I'd just seen, actually, Wasteland Express Delivery Service.
Yeah.
And just the style of that and the production value, blew my mind, and I thought, these guys might be a good publisher, because I make kind of odd, kind of quirky games, and I thought they might be able to, they might be into this. So I had gotten a pitch meeting, and I wasn't quite sure if the game was ready to pitch yet. But I had the meeting, and I went and pitched it to them, and they loved it. So I explained I still had a few rough edges that I needed to work out, but I sent it to them, and they brought on John Gilmore to do the development, which was great. He's really great at kind of smoothing out those rough things. And then they put about 1.5 years of development work into it, and it's coming out at this Origins 2 years after I first showed it to him, which is pretty awesome.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's doing okay. I mean, it's reached its goal on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
It was a relatively low goal compared to some. So yeah, it's doing all right. 639 backers, 15 days to go.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it combines Feldian stuff with necromancy, but just give us an overview of what the game is.
All right, so you are a group of necromancers wanting to throw a party, but unfortunately, because you're necromancers and everybody knows that you're disturbing the dead, you don't really have any friends. So instead, you are raising the dead to throw this party, and it's really about showing what a good necromancer you are, earning points that way. So you're researching spells to bring back the dead, and you got these runes that help you make the spells more powerful, and you're placing these skulls out in patterns, and that's how you're kind of casting these spells.
Okay.
And it uses kind of
theme-wise, if I can just interrupt you there for a minute.
Yep, go ahead.
Because that's what I do with my guests.
No problem.
Theme-wise,
yep,
that doesn't tie in with what you explained the games that you like as a gamer.
No.
Right, and this is the thing. When if somebody was to come to me who wasn't you and give me that pitch of a game, I'd be like, okay, this is just one of those throwaway look-based card games.
Yeah.
But it's not, is it?
No, not at all.
No, right. So yeah, if the theme doesn't appeal to you, then and you've switched off the podcast, switch the podcast back on and carry on listening.
Come back, please.
That's what I'm saying.
No, it's so like Trajan. If you're a fan of Trajan, you have to take different actions in order to build up certain things, and they'll feed into the other. With Deadman's Cabal, it's a similar deal, right? So there's kind of a unique action selection mechanism where you pull a skull from a bag, you put it in a row, whatever pops out you get to take into your supply, and then you choose your action from what you've got in front of you. So you want to keep a certain balance of the skulls, which are keyed to the different actions. You're also triggering an action that everybody's going to take on the middle row of this grid. So there's a lot of thought into like, what do I want to do now? What do I want to let everybody else do? And then, use these skulls to do your actions, but you also use them to put them out to cast these spells, which are the cards you have, which is kind of a pattern matching thing. So there's a lot going on there. What I like to do is take I take mechanics and ideas from heavier games and then make more kind of accessible and kind of quirky themes. Yeah. Because I find that amusing, and you don't see a lot of it. Like it stands out a bit, right?
Well, exactly. That's what I was saying when you described the theme to me. I'd already made an assumption in my mind of what kind of game this was, and dismissed it. Right. And then because it was you, I thought, no, I'm going to look deeper at this. And the more I found out about it, I was like, oh, actually, no, this is not the game that I thought it would be from, the overall description of necromancers needing friends at a party and then, raising the dead. Things like that. And then, as you say, you've described it. And I know some people don't like the classifications of Euro game and the other end of the scale, but this definitely sounds like it is more of a Euro game.
Oh, it's 100% a Euro game.
Yeah.
Like, it's a Euro game with kind of a silly theme.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that, that's another reason I went to Pandasaurus, right? Because especially after Wasteland Express and then Dinosaur Island, which is also, it's a Euro game about a dinosaur park. Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. And like once I realized these were the kind of games they were doing, I was like, this is going to be the publisher for me. Like they're going to get me, and they're going to be able to like convey what I'm doing to their audience. You know?
It sounds like it's a good mix, because I watched the video at the top of the Kickstarter campaign. Yeah. Which isn't one of your flashy animated 3-minute videos. It's the two people from Pandasaurus Games talking about the game. Yep. And I think it was a great video. Because it was, as I say, you watch one of these 3-minute flashy trailers and you're like, yeah, whatever. They've paid a lot of money and they've got a flashy trailer.
Right.
That's not really telling me much about it. Right. Whereas it was clear from watching that video that they were very much into this game. And they were very excited about this game. So it sounded like it was a good match.
Yeah, no, I've been thrilled with how excited they've been. And I mean, when they first started showing me the art that they commissioned for this game, like my jaw dropped. Like I had no idea it could look this cool, and that they care so much about it that they put so much into it. So no, it's been a great match. Yeah, excellent. Right, well, that's Deadman's Cabal covered. So yeah, if you're interested in it, as I say, don't be put off by the elevator pitch or the theme. There is a good Euro game in there. And yeah, 15 days to go, and you're saying that it will be delivered by Origins. Yeah, I mean, it was always intended to go direct to retail, and then the costs of the molds, plastic molds, were a bit higher than they expected. So they they kind of last minute decided to do a Kickstarter to try to raise the funds to make it as cool as possible. Yeah. Because it was one of those, they had to make decisions like, well, we could stick with our old retail-only plan and make everything cardboard chits, but if we can get the plastic skulls and the bones and like all this cool stuff, it's going to look so much better, and it's going to be the game we want to make. So yeah, that's why they went with the Kickstarter, but that's why it was kind of a surprise, announcement and everything. There was no real build-up. Yeah. But it seems to be doing fine, and at this point, like, I'm really excited that everything's going to get in there, and we've got, I think, one more stretch goal to get the bones in, and then we'll be good to go. Yeah, I'm just looking at that now. So a few of the stretch goals have been met, but the next stretch goal is the 3D sculpted bones, which is the currency of the game. Yep. So, yeah, looking good. Right, so if you're interested in that, go and check it out on Kickstarter. I will put a link to it in the show notes below. And that's about everything. So, anything else you want to add? No, I think that's it. I mean, you can follow me on Twitter if you like to hear me talk about goofy things. Your Twitter handle is? My Twitter handle is @DNLNWMN. It's my name without vowels. Right. And thanks for having me on, Paul. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, no, it's good to talk to you. And I will probably see you at Origins. I hope so. That'd be great. I think I can show you my game. I should be there. Yeah, I mean, it'll be out. Yeah, it should be there. That's the idea. That'll be exciting. Excellent. Although you've had the excitement of seeing one of your games published before. Yeah, but this is a much bigger deal. Like, it is. It's very different to have an 18-card wallet game and like a big box Euro. Like this is a big release for me. I'm really excited about it. Yeah. No, that's cool.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
All right, man. Thank you.
I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
So that brings us to the end of episode 9 of the Gaming Rules Podblast series. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Daniel, and as I say, if you are interested in Deadman's Cabal, then please go and check it out on Kickstarter. And as I mentioned at the start, if you like this Podblast and any of the other content that I create, then please consider supporting me over at patreon.com/gaming rules. Thanks very much to all of my patrons for making this Podblast possible, and to Jason Shaw at audionautics.com for the music used in this audio track. Take care, and thanks very much for listening.